So recently I interviewed Augusto Balizano, who's a major figure in tango history. And right from the start of this interview series, I've always made it clear that informal tango interviews is not just about the famous people, but about anyone who can tell an interesting story from their tango life or wants to share something or whatever. And you can see in the history of what I've done so far, instead of trying to create a mix uh, of diverse backgrounds. Um, but in a sense, it's even more exciting to interview someone who has a big track record in a way, and yeah, who's been responsible for or has really impacted the tango community, the global tango community in some way. So in the case of Augusto Balizano, he's mostly known for having promoted queer tango or gay tango in various forms around the world. So he's been the first with an official, like publicly accessible, like not underground milonga for gay men and for queer dancers, La Marchal, which still exists to this day. But he's also been part of a lot of international queer festivals and in general, like a movement for promoting this type of tango. So I'll hope to do a lot of other interviews that are that somehow also involve people with this, like this magnitude of impact they've had on the tango community, as well as just people like you and me, like I say in the description of my series on YouTube. It's just also people like you and me. But yeah, sometimes it's nice to have some people on the show who are who have this really yeah, impressive have had this really impressive big effect in some way. But that being said, what I found very interesting about my interview with Augusto Balizano is that it was, in some ways, it went against my expectations of interviewing someone who's famous. And the one thing I would like to highlight the most is that during the interview, as you shall see, when I upload it, when I publish it, Augusto really wanted to, you know, present himself mostly and predominantly as a tango teacher, and not just like some representative of queer tango or gay tango, but he sees it more broadly, and he sees himself as part of tango in general. And I thought that was really nice because, it's always easy if you represent a certain, well, almost like a cliche, almost like you are this guy of, like you are Lucas who always does these interviews and you're nothing else. But that's not how life works. So it's a bit more complex than that. And yeah, he made it really clear how much he enjoys teaching tango, and not just that being about inverting roles or whatever. So he's very deeply embedded in tango as an art, as a beautiful thing. And of course, maybe I was just naive. Maybe I thought that I haven't interviewed enough people like him. Maybe I haven't interviewed enough Argentine teachers and international maestros. But yeah, to me, it was kind of surprising. Where while I, like, my own prejudice was that he was mostly about this queer tango thing, but he's so much more. And that's not to say that queer tango is somehow worth less than tango in general, but it's just like queer tango is also a part of tango as an overreaching thing that we all do. And I really loved yeah, how he tells his story in this way. And one more thing I found very interesting is that, maybe also against my own prejudice, is that Augusto was very kind, he was very open and very accessible. So these three things, and that's a fantastic thing to have in an interview. And maybe it's just my prejudice, so it's always good to look at your own prejudice. But I have the feeling like when people get famous, even if it's not like they're not, we're not talking about Messi or something, or Maradona, or famous, like whatever, a very big figure in society. I mean, we are a bit of a niche, right? We're just tango, but even then, you would expect some people who get a lot of attention and that they become kind of, that they change, or they become kind of arrogant. And this might happen, but it doesn't always happen. And I think it probably happens less than I would expect from my prejudice. But in any case, Augusto was extremely kind, and I was really happy to have heard his story. And yes, that's pretty much what I wanted to say about it. So it's important to note that while we do talk about teaching in the first episode, there will be a second interview at some point in which we talk about it even more, so even more in detail. And this interview is mostly focused on his history, and also how maybe this gay tango or queer tango thing has become more accepted, and how he contributed to that. And of course, he highlights that he's not the only one who's been doing that, but yes, he has been a contributor to this movement. And yes, it's nice to see that it's more and more accepted to even outside of their space, so to say, that it's more and more accepted to dance whatever the way you want. And it can still be very traditional milonguero and respecting all the rules, but maybe with a bit of a different gender pattern, and that's yes, that's totally fine. And yes, that's pretty much all I wanted to say about this. I hope you enjoy the interview. I'll post it on Friday, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. That's all for today. Bye.